This is Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel. The Owens Community College Campus Big Read is taking place now and throughout the semester, with the goal of bringing awareness of different perspectives through books. The Campus Read book is A Little Less Broken, How an Autism Diagnosis Finally Made Me Whole by Marian Schembari. It's the story of one woman's decades-long journey to a diagnosis of autism and the barriers that keep too many neurodivergent people from knowing their true selves. Now, sharing passages, topics, and events related to the book are Director of Library Services, Jane Berger, and Professor of English, Jen Hazel.
I was just going to say, I thought it was Rob.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Big. I'm Jen Hazel, and I have with me Jane Berger and Genesis Downing, Professor of Humanities. I want to make sure I got your title right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you are an instructor, but you are a professor as well.
She's an elevated instructor.
Absolutely. So, Jane, I see you pulling the book
I got a
closer
passage.
to you.
I got a
Yes,
passage.
just go. I won't even ask
That's right.
my
It's
question.
a long one, so let's get to it.
All right.
A little bit further in, page 92. The transition to college is often a trigger for what's known as autistic burnout, a term widely used by members of the autistic community, but barely researched by the scientific one. Dr. Dora M. Raymaker was one of the first researchers to look at the topic, defining autistic burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic life stress and a mismatch of expectations and abilities without adequate supports. Symptoms are usually long-term, lasting at least 3 months, and include extreme fatigue, loss of skills, and increased sensory sensitivities. From the outside, depression and autistic burnout can look identical. Burnout is impossible to spot unless you know the patient is autistic. The main differences are the trigger and the treatment. While depression can be caused by a million things like stressful life events, genetics, or chemical imbalance, autistic burnout is almost always due to prolonged masking. As one participant in the Raymaker study explained, long-term camouflaging and masking leaves behind a kind of psychic plaque in the mental and emotional arteries. Like the buildup of physical plaque over time can result in a heart attack or stroke, the buildup of this psychic plaque over time can result in burnout. The problem is, the activities that benefit depression will often make autistic burnout worse. Behavior activation is the exact opposite of what we need to recover. Since autistic burnout is usually worsened by sensory overload, high executive functioning demands, or scheduling changes, the last thing an autistic person needs is more of what got them there. It's like telling someone with a miserable job to spend more time at work. It's a great analogy. So like I said, this is a lot. Autistic burnout. And she was diagnosed actually by a therapist as having depression, and which is why I think she's making the distinction about diagnosing it correctly, because it is easy to be misdiagnosed, as she knows better than anybody else. You've been teaching for a while. You've seen progression of students. Have you, or do you know of any of your students who have maybe suffered from something along these lines, or I don't know if you're, as an instructor, do you know if your students have like a specific plan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think? What?
Well, I've definitely noticed it more over at least, I would say, the last 5 to 10 years. There's definitely been a difference. But that also, I think that also comes from my own awareness and my own realizations that come into play. So I'm more hyper aware of what baggage the students bring to the table, and I'm also very transparent about that on the first day of class. So I let students know they don't need a mask. They don't need to worry about that. If they need me to turn the lights off, I'll turn the lights off. If they are getting overstimulated, because one of the things that happens in my classes a lot is we talk a lot and we go off on tangents. And there are a lot of tangents. So I tell students, bring your noise canceling headphones. Do whatever it is that you need to do in order to be able to thrive in the classroom.
Oh my gosh, that's
So-
awesome.
But I was not like that. For the first half of my career, I was not like that. I didn't start paying attention to these things until my adult daughter was diagnosed. And once she became diagnosed, I started to I was doing all the reading and all of that, but also noticing the behaviors
Yep.
that from home and noticing it in my adult students, and they were doing the same thing, or when they would shut down.
Yeah.
Or when they would get angry. And then it's like, oh, all right, well, I need to pay attention to this a lot
I
more.
recognize this.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
That's so true, though. Experience really does help you in every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So, Genesis, tell us a little bit about, well, actually, I have one question, and then I want you to expand on something for a second, if you don't mind. Do you put that in your syllabus? Like, you can bring your noise canceling
I
headphones?
don't. I do it verbally in class. So I usually, that first class is where we talk a lot about that. And I do notice that you can say it, but the students will still mask for a while. I mean, it takes about a month, and then all of a sudden something shifts.
They just can.
But it's a safe place, so then you've got everyone talking, and you've got everyone like being their authentic selves, and it's better for everyone, but it's not in the syllabus as a separate place, a separate piece. But I do have a section on like the thematic elements for Big Read, and so I let students know that whatever that topic is for that year, then we're going to be going all in on that. And because this is all about neurodivergence, I'm really excited about that, because I'd really like to see like what their experiences are. But no, it isn't directly in there, but that is a very good point that I'm probably now going to need to add to my syllabus. Like, why isn't it in there? It's verbal.
Yeah, and I think what made me think about it is I was like, oh, like there's a lot of those things like I like allow in class and don't care.
Yeah.
Like I have some students that prefer to wear their sunglasses in class, and like that doesn't bother me. I don't really care. Sometimes I feel like I'm always on the fly doing meetings that I'll be in my car and I'll have to wear my sunglasses because I'm facing, of course, the sun at the moment. And I think so. It was but I don't put anything like that,
Yeah.
but it would be, and it just in the moment while we were talking, I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Exactly.
Right? But the other thing I wanted you to talk a little bit about, because I think this is very pertinent to how you're talking about like that you ask students not to mask. You ask students to talk about their experiences.
Right.
I think what's important is that you teach composition, and one of the things that you encourage is using their stories to help
Yes,
guide
yeah.
them. And I think that's important to help have that make sense,
Yeah.
especially when we are talking about memoirs, because this is a memoir.
Another one.
Yeah. And she does a great job, like, mixing, the author does a fabulous job mixing her experience with then the research,
Yes.
which I
Yep.
think, like, to
Yes,
say,
that's
here's what
exactly,
research is saying.
yes.
So can you
Yep.
maybe explain a little bit better about what you end up doing in class?
Right. So I'd say for the last year and a half, I've refocused more on experiential learning. And I really want students to be able to talk about their own experiences and how that resonates with them with a specific topic. So they really are writing memoir in some way, but it's in a very short amount of space. But using experiential learning in that way, I think that it's helping break down those barriers that they usually come in with. I get more students talking than I usually do. So it's not like that top-down approach that we used to do for a really long time. Now it's more facilitation, and it's cool. It's really cool to see these students like really own their writing and own their thoughts and own their stories and be able to use that in a way to gain meaning.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very
well,
cool.
and you've created that safe space for
Yeah.
them. And I think it's great for those students who need that,
Yeah.
and for those students who don't and have never thought about it.
Right.
The awareness that is created, by the leads that you provide,
Yeah.
I think is just fabulous.
Yeah, it does help.
And one of the things, Genesis, you're also on our student learning assessment committee.
Right.
And one of the things I always think about that is interesting, one of the things we talk about is our general education assessment, Jane, and for our listeners, begins in those early general education classes. So things like the comp, things like the beginning speech, and then it's filtered through into their more, I don't want to say program courses because those are always part of the program, but those specific skills in, like, if I was going to be a nurse, my nursing.
in their majors, sure.
Right, in their major stuff. And one thing that Genesis really made as an observation once, and I think what's really awesome is her seeing that connection, which is really in a lot of ways what we are seeing wide, because I feel like in a lot of ways, like, memoir has exploded. In a way that it hasn't before. Like, many people are telling their stories and saying that there's something to value, because we used to think of memoir as being written at the end of someone's life.
Yes, I was going to
And-
say that.
Yes. And we now are having people like, we had Saeed Jones several years ago, and he was, what did he write that? He was like in his mid-30s. Yes.
Yeah.
And like...
Well, even Stephanie Fu, you know,
Right.
And our very
Mid-thirties.
first one,
Right.
Sarah Smarsh, she was also in her, you know, mid to late 30s, and she was talking about her experience, you know, living in the heartland, and, you know, just some of the political strife and just what it was like to be a farmer, you know. So in a way, it was a type of a memoir. We just seem to lean in a little bit.
Well, I think it's hitting something that's really specific to
Yes.
people, is
Yeah.
that they're seeing that their own stories have value in a way that they may not have before. But Genesis's observation, which is, I think, highly I can't think of the word I wanted, but anyway, highly intuitive, thank you, was really like thinking about the fact that our students who experience experiential learning and really push that where they are in classes that really do that, tend to take those skills and transfer them on in a way that seems to be stronger than some students who are just the traditional way, which I think is something we really need to think about and look at. And I think it's these type of stories that are really starting to bring that to the forefront, that make things important. Like, people, you have something to say. It doesn't mean you have to be this fantastic whatever, like,
accomplished, you know,
Right.
lifelong
yes.
stories of experience and all. You can share.
And it's really interesting. One of the things I've noticed, because I do this heavily in Comp 2, and I've noticed that their stories, nobody's allowed them to talk about it before. And so when you allow students to talk about, you know, really terrible things that maybe have happened to them or things that they've experienced, it's almost like not only giving them a voice, but it's almost like it allows other things. You're allowed to be vulnerable in other ways because you've put yourself out there so much that it's okay to now take these other steps and, you know, maybe try a different form of writing, but you're in a safe space, so you can do these things. And I'm still going to call them out on writing, and they're still going to be learning writing and all that stuff, and it's going to hurt and it's going to be hard, but it's almost as if you had to establish that kind of trust with them.
Right, and it allows students to understand that, because, and I know you experience this as much as I have, like, we would be so rich if we got $1 for every time a student told us they were not a good writer. Like, it is having, it is having the tools and having the support behind it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they are experts. They're experts on their own life.
Right.
Yes.
And then
yes.
they grab other experts. And
Yeah.
the thing that I think is so interesting, and what Marian does here, and we didn't talk all that much about the passage, but that I think she does, is she is helping other people see that their story and their life matters.
Yes.
Right? And that certain things are important. And what she's saying is, you know what, I experienced this. How many people or women just like her that have suspected that something feels off or whatever, and has read this memoir and then thought, that's the missing piece for me.
Right.
Right.
Because at her age, I mean, not that she's old, but parents were not given much guidance on what to do or where to go or who to talk to if you had a child that you thought was, what was that in one passage when we met with one of our students, lazy or sensitive or
Fake.
buzzkill, fake. There was nowhere, and even if there was, it was kind of taboo because
Right.
Lordy B, nobody should see you walking into a therapist's office. So I think we've made some progress there, and it's books like this that has helped us get there.
Right, absolutely. And I think one of the last things, and then we totally have to wrap up because I'm sure it is like way over time, but when we get engrossed in conversations. I also think what is clever that this has done, that with that resurgence of memoirs and then it not being someone at the end of their life, really, and also what Genesis is doing in our classes is really breaking down that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because they have something valuable to say.
Correct.
She has something valuable to say. How many, and this is just, even when we think about her coming to, Marian coming to campus in April, how many people who may have not read the book or have read the book when they get there, but we have a mix of people that are literally going to be impacted in a totally different way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even when I think back to last year with Saranovich, it was, even though, hearing people were still impacted by certain things that she brought forward to think about. And I think about one of them, and the email was sent to both of us, Jane, where there were so many things that were pointing at, and we're like, what? And then the person wrote back and said what it was. And one of them was saying, I wonder, what it was talking about how when Charlie had rolled up the, Sarah was talking about, it wasn't about the character, rolled up her diagnosis of not being able to, her losing her hearing and throwing it. And then the person who had wrote us said, I wonder how many kids hide things that are less serious from their parents versus something that's really serious.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that was something that it didn't cross my mind, and I thought, wow. That's a really good thing to ponder.
Right, and to think about.
Yeah, and that's what I love, because there's so many perspectives and so many, it touches people in very many ways. Because this is something that I think everybody has some experience with, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
And so I think if it brings one little, bright shining light to oh, I get that now, or I didn't think about that, or I want to learn more about that. That's what we're here for. That's what we do.
Right.
Why
Absolutely.
we do this.
So I really had another point, but we really have to
I had a
wrap up.
question
So I'm
too.
going to try to bring it back at another time. But anyway, on behalf of myself, Jane, and Genesis, keep talking big.
This has been Let's Talk Big. Catch Let's Talk Big anytime on the RSS feed or the Owens Outcome Plus YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us again for Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel.